Well, welcome to the Vacation Podcast. I'm here with my friend Aiden Cable. I am your host, Cole Thompson. Today, we are going to
Yo,
be talking about the Amazon rainforest fires. You may have heard of them, they happen a lot, but they've gone up 80%, 4,500 ish, give or take, to 73,000 fires.
wow, that is
And you know
lot.
what causes most of these fires?
What?
People. Not just wildfires that have just happened. It's people burning down trees to make room for them to grow crops or whatever, have places to live. Rainforest.
You know what? You're
If
right.
the rainforest doesn't
Uh,
go on like it was before, that there's a pivoting point that the entire rainforest are just going to turn to Sahara.
and at that point, will there be enough trees and plant life to sustain humanity?
That is a misconception that there won't be. 100% sure about that, but we are pretty sure that because it's not as high of a percentage as you'd think, but the real problem is the amount of CO2 here,
Oh
not necessarily
no.
the oxygen being low. Because once you reach about 5% oxygen, 5% CO2 in your atmosphere, deadly. It
Deadly
causes
on what
cog-
scale? Like, give me some examples of the effects.
so you'd be your cognition, like your brain would not be working at a very useful, be really
Okay.
slow, you very slow mentally.
Yeah.
um Solving simple problems
Okay.
would be very hard.
So yes, it has negative health effects, but what does this mean for Earth as a whole?
Well, it kind of means that we're gonna not have a lot of animals that we would have. A lot of different animals, even animals we don't know about yet. Insects, animals that live. If this turns into a desert, then we're not going to have those animals. Those animals are most likely, if they can't fly fast, they're probably going to die. It's just how it is. There's going to be mass
They
extinction
can't
of animals.
they can't escape it. Yeah. So
Uh,
who started the Amazon rainforest fires?
well, it's a number of people. It's not any particular people. It is
Uh,
humans. That's the problem.
well, yes.
Humans are the ones that are impacting it the
Well,
most.
if humans did it, who? Well, like, what kind of person did it, and why did they do it? Or you know what I mean?
So the person who rules over, I use that loosely, um, over, well, Brazil kind of basically is pro letting people pay us money and use our land, is allowing people to pay money to use the land, burn the trees down, and then plant crops down, which a native species
Uh,
of it.
I've heard about that. I've also heard they burn it down sometimes for like space to put like cattle
Yes,
and
they
stuff.
also do that sometimes. They do add
Uh,
places where they have cattle. They
And
burn down the trees. But the problem with this, with them burning down trees, yes, people all over the world, there's controlled burns. It's like even in
controlled.
California happens. a lot of the wildfires, um, not started wild. They go out of control. That's why they're called wildfires, not because they necessarily start in the wild. It's because they've gone out of control. That's what
Well,
happens in California, and that happens in the Amazon too. The person who is ruling, I can't think of his name right now. I'm sorry, but since he is has allowed people from other countries to come in and do all this, um, it's caused these fires. I think his name is it starts with a J.
jar or something like GAIR. Jar.
Yeah. Um.
Funny, huh?
So
I
he
don't know.
basically
I have
is
no idea.
pro like letting everyone come in, like in as long as
Yeah.
they pay and everything. So
Don't make it
also
legal.
meant that it's increased it. It's not good for the environment, obviously, but a lot of people don't understand
So,
how bad it is.
so I feel like a kind of common misconception is that it's like climate is to blame for like climate change as a whole is to blame for like increase in wildfires, not like the farming industry or whatever.
Yeah, agriculture does have an impact on that. Um, if you've ever seen like a sign that has like Smokey the Bear on it, um,
Yeesh.
says that it's super high chance of there being like a fire were to happen from like a spark. Set off fireworks. I know I'm not talking necessarily about like people will set off fireworks and they don't think about it. They think, "Oh, it's not going to happen. It's so unlikely." But relative
Huh.
to the world, it's actually more likely than you'd think.
Yeah,
We're
I feel like
8 billion people on this earth.
I feel like people nowadays kind of feel a little like too safe.
Yeah,
You
people
know what I
feel
mean?
too safe sometimes.
They just feel
Like
like nothing bad ever happens anymore.
they have that ignorance
Yeah.
that
It's
nothing like say a lot of people who are living like a first world country are like happened to us. So why would I care what's happening there? It's not going to happen to us. Do something about what's happening to the other people who are in third world countries. You.
well, if you don't have to worry about it and they do, well, why don't you help them to not have to worry about it either? I mean, instead of just, sitting there on your couch drinking your coffee in the
Watching
morning.
YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, well, come on.
Do something about it. Even just like
Like maybe
freeze.
like even just like at least like donating to like a charity or every once in a while that does that kind of thing.
Yeah. Um but yeah, I mean like there are tigers, jaguars and leopards and they all compete for food. They're all competing for food. I mean they're predators. Their food is dying. They're dying because they don't have food and because of the fires. It's kind of crazy, but like jaguars will kill crocodiles. You
Mm,
think a crocodile can move that fast out of water?
yeah, no.
So think about if you there's nowhere for the crocodiles to be, because the water is boiling hot because of the fires. There's no crocodiles for the jaguars to eat. And there's no place for the jaguars to get the crocodiles, and the jaguars are gonna die.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of just uh
I mean, it's sad because it's
yeah.
basically like Oh, well, it's the forest. It's gonna self-regulate itself.
Yeah, that's stupid.
But that's stupid because think
That's
about it like this.
it's gonna
On
self-regulate itself under normal like
Under perfect conditions, it's
under
gonna
normal
self-regulate like that.
circumstances. Like under
In the
normal
circumstances that it's
under
in,
like once we get involved, that can screw everything up. It's not just gonna fix itself.
yeah.
It
And that's what people think.
yeah.
A lot of people just think that and about
It
it. We don't
manages
live in a perfect
itself
world.
in a situation where it has like where all the plant life and stuff and like the ecosystem has evolved to sustain itself.
Yeah.
This is sudden and this doesn't it can't adapt to this because it dies.
Yeah.
Little thing for you folks. It can't
And
reproduce if it dies.
yeah, I mean, the
So
I
that
can't
doesn't.
what where it came from, but there was this tortoise. It was the last of its kind. They were thought to be extinct, and they couldn't find any other species or even a species that could mate with it. And they had the last tortoise, and it went extinct in captivity. That's sad. Like we can't even do anything about it, even when it's in captivity,
Yeah.
and take care of it. I mean, yeah. There's also like it's kind of cool. They feed off this like chemical dew that's on the backs of caterpillars,
Hmm.
and I mean that's a symbiotic relationship. And
Yeah.
if you
Not.
think about it, the entire world is a symbiotic relationship.
I
We
mean,
don't take care of the people, other people, then we're basically dooming ourselves.
yeah. In the long term, if we don't help like people that can't help themselves in the short term, we're just screwing ourselves over in the long term.
Exactly. And that's why we need to act now. Because we don't want the Amazon rainforest to be known as the Amazon desert one day. How different that would be. A desert is so dry that it doesn't rain but very small amount a year. But in the Amazon, it usually rains a lot.
Yeah, because
Humid, humid. But I mean,
it's humid climate. Yeah. So.
yeah. I mean, there's poison dart frogs. Another couple other symbiotic relationships we have here. Dart frogs, they'll hide under the leaves of this plant. I mean, that no one. The one thing is benefited, the other's not, and that's called commensalism.
What's that?
That's basically where one thing gets benefited. So in this case, it's the poison dart frog is getting benefited by the plant having leaves that it can hide under.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
then there's like mutualism. There's these monkeys, um, flowering trees, and they spread pollen. They're not trying to spread pollen, but they do. They end up
Yeah,
spreading the pollen, and that's mutualism. And then there's one. Here's the one that you've probably heard of, parasitism. And this one might be an example that you may have heard of. You know the ants, the zombie ants they've been called in the past. Basically, a
maybe.
fungus takes over their brain, causes them to uh, specific place, a high point that kills the ant, and then it spreads its spores for ants, and other ants get infected by it, and then it just keeps repeating and repeating.
I actually didn't know that that a certain type of ant is now going through a version of the plague.
So, in other words, we're the
Okay.
people who are not trying to help parasites, the people who are people for are like
Hmm.
the plants, and the people who are and getting helped are
Yeah,
like
I feel like
the
sometimes though,
monkeys.
like, sorry for interrupting, but I feel like people don't treat plants as living things anymore.
Yeah, there's actually a study that was done. I can't remember. I'm so bad. I wish that I could remember who did this. But there was like a scientific paper I read that the root system that they kind of have like it's kind of like a neurological pathway that's underground. It's not exactly like a brain, but it's somewhat like a brain. The plants aren't necessarily sentient, but they are able to
Yeah,
communicate.
yeah. I mean, they're not sentient, but like, well, I
They're
don't mean
still
it
living
necessarily
beings.
like that people don't understand they're living things. What I mean by that is people don't
Just don't respect
understand
them.
like their impact in daily lives and like, you know, how much they actually depend on them. Cuz some people I feel like think like I mean, yeah, like the entire forest could burn down, the entire Amazon rainforest could burn down and it would have no effect on them.
Yeah, but in all honesty, it's gonna have a massive effect on them. It's like I hate to bring politics into it, but like people who like they only vote for the president,
Uh-huh.
they don't vote for like local.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't vote for
that that's
local,
that's dumb.
you're not
Yes. If you only vote for the
president, not
honestly,
local,
I'm
you're
sorry
not
to bash
really
people,
doing
but
much.
if you only vote for the president and you don't vote like in any local thing, like not even statewide, I mean, that has more impact on you. The
Yeah,
president has like very minimal impact on you, to be honest. President
yeah.
is like for like voting and kind of like
Your
it
vote
doesn't
is
matter.
basically
I don't even
like
know why they have
nothing.
this whole
The more
different
people who vote,
system. They
actually,
have this
the
whole
less.
different like the electoral college system for the president when it matters a lot. Like it does, but it really doesn't at the same time. Like it like on a personal level, the governor of your state matters more than like the president
Yeah.
or like
In other words, what
but
you're
yeah,
trying,
I
I
mean
think
like
what
the
you're trying to
mayor or
say is
whatever.
like
Like yeah.
your local government is going to affect you more. Your federal government is going to affect you as well. A strong local government. So I'm going to relate that to like if you don't plant trees, something to help impact your environment of say this does become the Amazon desert and you're just still, in your yard.
Mhm.
There's no way that you're hurting the environment. You're not helping it by
Mhm.
plant trees, donate to an organization that will plant trees or an organization that will help preserve rainforests or preserve wildlife. You could even try to talk to local government and
Like yeah, I mean you have more
here's what I think.
communication with the
We
local
should
government too. You
and then they
can
can
do more
bring it
with
up the letter. You tell them, okay, I think that we need to save some sort of money in the government and ask them if they can like represent the state, talk to the people who represent the state, go talk in the Go
talking
talk.
to Congress. Yeah, like
Yeah, in Congress.
honestly, eventually, if it matters a lot, you don't start in federal. Straight up, you
Yeah.
start in local, if not state, in some cases, and work your way up to federal.
Oh, and you also want to hear something else? So as we were talking about,
How it's set up.
like
Yeah.
we were talking about the animals, how they interact with each other. I
Hmm.
mean, it's get their energy from the sun. It's the main source of energy for all life. And so they get the energy from the sun. You know, a grasshopper comes along, comes and eats a plant. It eats that plant, gets eaten by
Frog.
I don't know if geckos eat them, but gecko.
A gecko.
That
Yay.
gecko, I maybe a snake or whatever. And then the energy flow, it goes and it subtracts like 1,000 of that energy being because it's being used by those animals. And the plants are the ones that we need to protect because plants. We can't synthesize energy from the sun that we're able to eat or with the sun, but we can't make our own food. The only thing we can do is use plants. Plants.
And other animals. I mean, yeah. But like, it all comes from the sun. At the starting point, it comes from the sun.
Hmm.
So, and then it goes into plants, and then it goes into
Direct
animals.
Earth related, the
So
directly
yes.
on Earth thing is the plants, and that's
So
absurd that we can just get by killing them.
you're killing the second step in the system.
Yeah,
You're
and
on the
in the
end of
food
it.
chain, that is literally the first thing in the food
Yeah,
chain.
you're killing the bottom of the food chain, and then guess what? Eventually, if you kill off the bottom of the food chain, guess what
The
that
chain
ends up?
breaks and breaks
Oh,
and breaks
it
and breaks, and until
eventually
you
ends
fall
up
off
at
the food
you,
chain.
and then guess what? You're starving. Oh, but
Uh,
before then, we've
Oh, but
already
I won't
died
be
of not having
alive
enough
then.
oxygen,
I
and then
won't be
too
alive
much
when that
starving.
happens.
Hopefully,
Hmm.
I mean, I have
And
no
then
idea.
there's also the fact that that when you burn when you burn the trees they hold a lot of the carbon emissions in them because they need sun, nitrogen, phosphorus, and carbon as well as water.
Hmm.
So nitrogen in the atmosphere, it does not it will not, it's not like photosynthesis. It has to be by a um basically turns the nitrogen into a different form of nitrogen that would be used by the plants. As you know, carbon is able to be used in photosynthesis where it can be used as carbon dioxide that's in the atmosphere. It doesn't have to be changed or anything. Water is in the rainforest currently, but if it turns into a desert, the amount of water is going to be so low. There's not going to be enough.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why people don't understand the severity of this situation. Cause they just think there's infinite food and water, which is the stupidest thing I've heard ever.
We don't have any efficient way of
Yeah,
separating ocean water and then making fresh water from it.
yeah,
We have super inefficient ways that actually most of the ways we have release carbon emissions. Our
yeah.
our greenhouse gases are what's making the ozone layer, the hole in the ozone layer, open up more, which is increasing the cancer rates.
Okay.
Thing the radiation are well into our atmosphere where we are. The ozone layer. If the ozone layer wasn't there, we would be dead.
Hmm.
So quickly, there would not
I
be
mean, we are doing everything. It seems like we're doing everything we can right now
yeah, to
to
not.
like destroy ourselves.
Exactly.
Have you heard of
And
like?
I
Okay, sorry. Have you heard about the like the NASA mission in 2024 to like set up
oh,
a moon base?
tell me more about this.
Uh, it's like I think
Did you say
yes they
NASA?
yeah
Correct.
NASA yes the I don't know what exact I don't remember National something something something.
So
But
they're
it was
planning
announced
to
in
build
on
a
April
space.
9th from what I see. They approved it on April 9th, 2019. And I'm pretty sure the premise of it and the purpose of it is to use like energy from like the sun um basically with like stuff on the moon's surface reacting with the sun's rays, use that in like
Fusion
fusion
or
to
fission?
fusion.
Nuclear fusion?
Isn't fusion's cleaner, right?
Um, I'm give me a moment.
Sorry.
But you figure that one out. But yeah,
Sorry.
you
Yeah, but I think it's
if you put the satellites space, I mean the solar
uh
panels in space, and you also use cleaner energy in general, that would help a lot.
yeah,
But what
no,
we
yeah,
need to do
it's
as
fusion. So
well
it's
as
basically it would make a very good source of energy which would help and kind of make a lot of like greenhouse gases kind of obsolete if that works out. So we'll have to see how that goes, but that would
time will tell.
that time will tell.
But yeah, I mean, we really need to do something about it. So many things you can do. Guys, listen. There are things in your community, you just at your house that are going to help impact the earth positively. If you can't plant a tree, you can try and well, hey, let's not let's not all drive our cars to school. Carpool. I know a lot of people are like, oh, but it's carpool. I don't want to be in a car with a whole bunch of people I don't know. Public transportation.
Walking,
I mean, it's all
biking, walking.
not using anything at all. Surprised the other day.
Tesla,
I was
hurry
ordering
up.
something off of I think it's called SD or something like that.
Mhm.
E something something. Give me a second. Etsy, sorry, Etsy. Etsy the other day, and it said, "Would you like to use mission balancer or something like that?" And basically, for every shipping that it costs, like the toll that it takes of carbon emissions, this many trees. However many carbon emissions, they plant a tree, and I mean that's amazing. I thought I was really surprised. I didn't think of a lot of in that. But yeah, with your with fusion thing you were talking about
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit, please. Sorry, sorry.
Oh, what were you gonna say?
Would you like to continue with the nuclear fission fusion you're talking
Uh,
about? The can go on. I have other stuff visited.
I don't know.
So, I'm just gonna move
Right.
on to some like of the nutrient cycles. We talked about how the
Mhm.
carbon, how plants taking carbon and the nitrogen, also the water, and plants need phosphorus as well. Nitrogen is fixed by these back slash fungus. Both they're two different things that can do it. Are able to be used by plants, and it's taken in by the plants and then they let out oxygen. When you burn them, not only are you taking out the thing that turns that stuff into oxygen, you're also releasing carbon.
Mhm.
And that's one reason why it's such a bad thing for you to burn all these trees down.
Uh,
The thing about the Amazon is they hold a lot of the Earth's carbon, take it in, they store it. And when you burn them down, that was still like in the trees, plus whatever carbon they are made up of because they're carbon beings. We're carbon beings. When we say we cremate someone, that's releases carbon emissions too.
mm.
And yeah, and like water. You know what transpiration of water is?
Transpiration.
Yes, it's kind of like evaporation, and it is technically, but transpiration is when like the water in the ground is like it comes up and the water from the leaves is evaporates the atmosphere and then it rains down.
Okay.
It's on right now currently.
Like
There's no setness. There's not necessarily a season where it rains or a season where it doesn't rain.
there are seasons where it
If
rains
it
more, but yeah.
and
Uh,
if these, as I said before, if they reach that tipping point where there's like basically it's the point of no return, then we're going to have decreased rain. Those are going to rise because not only of the global warming, but because that rain is not going to want to go into spots most more likely, which is weird. You think that, oh, it's dry. How about the rain would want to come here? That's not how it works. The rain is not alive. And I mean, we're also running out of like fertilizer with phosphorus in it from like the rocks, so they break up. And then they get introduced into the plants. Plants are eaten by animals. Those animals are sometimes eaten by other animals. Those animals, sounds disgusting, but they poop out ever,
hmm
and they, all goes back into the bottom of the ocean, basically. So, do you have any comments on that or concerns about what's going on with the phosphorus cycle, actually?
Uh,
Do you have any comments on the phosphorus cycle? Depleting, the resource of phosphorus is depleting because it's once it goes to the bottom of the ocean, it becomes, well, useless, kind of. really be
Yeah.
used by plants. And I think very soon we'll be coming up to the end of this podcast number 1. And I'd like to thank anyone who is listening to this podcast for joining us. I appreciate my friend Aiden for coming on here, helping with the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. Link to my Discord vacation will be in the description. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys get to go out and do something. Oh,
Make an impact today.
please make an impact today. Again, thank you, Aiden, for coming on to the podcast. Buddy,
No problem.
have a good day.
You too.
Bye.